Ron Boone was a literal definition of a late bloomer. When he graduated high school, he was 5'7", and his chances of playing D1 ball were slim. After a year in JUCO, Ron grew to 6'2" and a solid 200 pounds. He earned a scholarship to Idaho State University, where he became a 2-time all-conference member. After being drafted in the 11th round by the Phoenix Suns, he chose to play for the Dallas Chaparrals of the ABA. Ron was a star from the jump, as he was really fun to watch on the court. He had the speed to blow by his matchup, the strength to bully other guards and absorb contact at the rim, and the dexterity to change his shot in midair to avoid the defense. You still couldn't sag off, as he was a solid outside shooter, even adjusting the arc on his jumper based on who was contesting. He was an excellent rebounder for his position, with a tenacity on the defensive end as well. Ron made multiple All-Star games and All-ABA teams during his time in the league, but the most underrated part about him was his durability, as he never missed a game in his 13-year career. Ron was one of the best players in ABA history, and also one of a few to successfully transition to the NBA, and he deserves recognition for his accomplishments. This is PZ Hoops, and welcome to another episode of ABA Tales. Ron was born on September 6, 1946 in Oklahoma City. When he attended Omaha Tech in Nebraska, he didn't start until his senior year, helping his team win a state title in 1963. At 5'7" and 140 pounds, his chances of playing D1 were pretty slim, but one situation really lit a fire underneath him. I remember playing in a league down at the local YMCA and having a good time, just scoring points. And this friend of mine asked one of the officials if he thought I could play major college basketball, and the guy said, "No way." That was always in the back of my mind because I thought I could. If there was anything in my life that I can say inspired me, it was those comments. He and his friend were both offered a chance to play at Clarinda Community College. Ron really shined, averaging 26 points a game. After the season, he had a major growth spurt, shooting up to 6'2" and 200 pounds. He had offers from Iowa and Iowa State, but his high school coach directed him to Idaho State University. The Bengals were led by a dominant scorer, Dave Wagner, and since Ron had a 43-inch vertical leap, he played the small forward. Idaho State really wasn't a good team, losing their first 12 games. They finished 7-19, but Ron had a nice sophomore season, averaging 11 points and 9.5 rebounds. Wagner graduated, and now Ron had a lot more freedom in the offense. He was getting his points, but the Bengals still weren't good, starting the season 1-10, and won 9 of their next 15 to end the season on a somewhat positive note. Despite the lack of team success, Ron made the All-Big Sky first team, averaging 22 points and 5 rebounds. It was more the same for the Bengals in 1968, as he had the second best offense in the nation, but the third worst defense. Ron was taking a lot more shots, actually leading the conference in scoring, while 6'5" Ed Wilson led the conference in rebounding, but Idaho State finished 10-12 on the season. Ron averaged 21 points, 4 rebounds, and 4 assists. After a solid college career, Ron was still overlooked as a prospect, being drafted in the 11th round by the Suns, but he was also selected by the Dallas Chaparrals. Ron decided to play in the ABA, saying this, "I chose the ABA because my college coach said it was a young league and I'd probably have a better chance of making professional basketball there. I felt that by going to the ABA, I probably had a shot. I still had to prove myself." At the time, Cliff Hagan, who was a legend, was the coach for the Chaparrals. We had to play 2-on-2 and he would always play. I remember hearing about his great hook shot that he had with either hand, and during that time, I blocked his shot a couple of times. I really think even today, that's the reason I made the team. He joined the Dallas squad that featured guys like John Beasley, Cincy Powell, and Glenn Combs. He would start right away, finally playing the guard position as opposed to the forward in college. He dropped 26 points, 7 rebounds, and 5 assists on November 14th against Oakland. He put up a season-high 35 points on December 21st against Houston, one of his 6 30-point games. Ron was more than just a scorer, filling up the entire box score, recording 6 double-doubles in 6 games with at least 5 assists. He ranked 19th in scoring, 9th in assists, and 6th in free throws made. Dallas was a stout defensive team, but they were still young, so they had their shortcomings. However, a 41-37 record was still enough for a playoff berth. Ron made the All-Rookie First Team, averaging 19 points, 5 rebounds, and 3.5 assists, as Dallas faced the Buccaneers in the semifinals. He was struggling through the first 4 games, as the Chaparrals were down 3-1. He bounced back with 20 in Game 5 and 23 in Game 7, but Dallas lost a close one on the road to be eliminated. 1969 would be different for Ron, as he wasn't primarily featured in the offense like last year. He took the least amount of shots out of all the starters, but he was still a consistent double-figure scorer, dropping the season-high 33 points on February 10th against Miami. His production was down, but he still ranked 19th in total assists, Glenn, Cincy, and Manny Leaks all had career seasons, as Dallas flipped the script, with their offense heavily outperforming their defense. They even changed coaches, swapping Cliff Hagan for Max Williams, as they improved to a 45-39 record, with Ron averaging 14 points, 4.5 rebounds, and 3 assists. Dallas faced the Stars in the semifinals, as Ron had 43 combined points in games 2 and 3 to help the Chaparrals go up 2-1, but the Stars took the next 3 games, winning the series in 6. The Dallas Chaparrals became the Texas Chaparrals in 1970, and with Cincy gone, Ron got a much bigger role in the offense. He had a 7-game stretch in November, averaging 22 points and 11 rebounds, making 7 of his 8 3-point attempts in that time frame. But in January, he would be on the move, being traded along with Glenn to the Utah Stars for Donnie Freeman and Wayne Hightower. Ron and Glenn joined an already solid starting lineup with Willie Wise, Zelmo Beatty, and Red Robbins. Ron went through an adjustment period as expected, but by the time the playoffs came around, he was back in the groove. This was also a great season personally for him, as he made his first All-Star game. He was proven to be extremely versatile, dropping 16 double-doubles in 7 games with at least 5 assists. He was also experimenting with the three-pointer, making 49 of them at a 36% clip. Zelmo was the star of this team, leading the league in field goal percentage and offensive rebounds, as the Stars finished 57-27. Ron averaged 18 points, 6.5 rebounds, and 3 assists. The Stars faced Ron's former team in the semifinals, as he dropped 21 points, 9 rebounds, and 8 assists in Game 1, followed by 2 20-point double-doubles in an easy sweep. The Pacers were a much tougher test in the division finals, as Ron put up 19 points, 6 rebounds, and 5 assists in Game 2, followed by 27 points, 7 rebounds, and 11 assists the next game. After these games, he wasn't as involved in the offense, but he was still efficient, helping Utah win Game 7 on the road to clinch the ABA Finals. The Kentucky Colonels, who feature his former teammate Cincy, met them there. Through the first 5 games, Ron was really feeling it, averaging 21 points, 7 rebounds, and 5 assists. But he went through a cold spell after this, shooting just 29% in the last 2 games. But the Stars won Game 7 by 10, clinching the ABA crown. Willie really came into his own in 1971, and with the addition of high-scoring guard Jimmy Jones, Ron would actually come off the bench this season. But he was effective no matter the role, dropping 28 points, 12 rebounds, and 3 assists against Virginia, followed by 34 points, 11 rebounds, and 7 assists 3 weeks later versus the Squires again. The Stars were really on point this season, sporting 6 double-digit scores, as this well-balanced squad finished 60-24, the second best behind a 68-win Kentucky team, as a potential finals matchup between these teams would be a barn burner. Ron averaged 13 points, 5 rebounds, and 3 assists as Utah faced the Chaparrals in the semifinals. His best performance in this series was a 21-point effort in Game 4, the last win of a semi-competitive sweep. The almighty Pacers met them again in the division finals. Ron wasn't that much of a factor in this series, only getting about 18 minutes a night, as the Stars lost a heartbreaker on their home floor in Game 7. Zelmo's knee started to bug him in 1972, so the Stars signed Gerald Govan as insurance. Ron became the starter again, so his production naturally increased. As the season wore on, he really established himself, scoring 23 points a game on 57% shooting in January. His defensive upside was on display as well, as he recorded 26 points, 9 rebounds, 6 assists, and 4 steals against Dallas. Then 3 weeks later, dropped 30 points, 2 rebounds, 6 assists, 2 steals, and 3 blocks. He was ranked in the top 15 in points, assists, and free throws, and while he wasn't an all-star, he finished 4th in MVP voting. Utah was still one of the better teams in the league, finishing 55-29, as Ron averaged 19 points, 5 rebounds, and 4 assists. San Diego wasn't that much of a challenge in the semifinals, as Ron scored at least 22 3 times, shooting 58% and adding almost 3 steals a game in an easy sweep. The Stars faced Indiana yet again with a trip to the finals on the line, but Ron's shot wasn't falling, shooting below 44% and fouling out in 20 minutes in a Game 7 loss. Ron now joined Willie and Jimmy as one of the Stars' major contributors in 1973. He really wasn't increasing his production, but he was way more efficient. Even when he was cold, he was still effective, as on October 26 against San Diego, he only scored 4 points, but he added 14 rebounds and 11 assists. But when he was on, dropping 38 points and 8 assists on 70% shooting on Valentine's Day against Kentucky. He wasn't just named an All-Star, but also a second-team All-ABA member. He was in the top 15 in points, assists, and steals, as the Stars won 51 games. Ron averaged 18 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, and 1.5 steals. The Stars faced San Diego in the semis again, as Ron averaged 20 points, 7 rebounds, 11 assists, and 2 steals through the first 3 games. The Stars won Game 6 on the road, facing that team in Indiana again. Ron had 4 20-point games in this series, shooting 53% as the Stars won Game 7 in a blowout, finally making it back to the finals. But Dr. J and the Nets would be too much for them, with Ron really struggling, dropping just 2 points in Game 3. He came back with 22 points, 7 rebounds, and 10 assists in Game 4, helping Utah avoid the sweep. But the Nets won Game 5 by double digits, clinching the title. The Stars no longer had Willie in 1974, and while they did trade for a past his prime Roger Brown, 19-year-old Moses Malone was their prize acquisition. Ron finally had an opportunity to be a #1 option, and he proved to be one of the best players in the league, dropping 27 points, 6 rebounds, 10 assists, and 5 steals in the 5th game of the season. He dropped the then career-high 42 points, 4 rebounds, and 4 steals on February 26 against San Diego. He dropped double figures in every game, along with 4 double-doubles, 4 games with double-digit assists, and 12 games with at least 3 steals. He was an All-Star and a now first-team All-ABA member, ranking 3rd in points behind George McGinnis and Dr. J. Moses had a stellar rookie year, leading the league in offensive rebounds, but it was clear that these weren't the same stars of old, as their 38-46 record was barely enough to sneak into the playoffs. In his career season, Ron averaged 25 points, 5 rebounds, 4.5 assists, and 1.5 steals as they faced Denver in the semifinals. After a 2 for 13 shooting night in Game 1, he dropped 29, 25, and 30 as the series was tied after 4 games. He shot 6 for 20 in the Game 5 loss, but he bounced back with 33 points, 4 rebounds, 7 assists, and 5 steals in Game 6. But the Stars lost the game and the series. The Stars were losing money fast in 1975, but Ron continued to play extremely well, dropping 37 on Halloween, 35 on 77% shooting 2 weeks later, 42 points along with 5 steals the week after that, and 34 points and 14 assists the next game. But with the team about to fold in early December, Ron, Moses, Steve Green, and Randy Denton were traded to the Spirits for cash. They weren't that much better, as they were shuffling players around as well. Moses had broken his foot, so he didn't produce the way he did as a rookie. Ron really showed out in his first month with his new team, averaging 23 points, 4.5 rebounds, and 6 assists on 50, 42, 85 splits. He was passing a lot more, since he had 2 great scorers around him in Marvin Barnes and Freddie Lewis. Ron was in the top 10 for points, assists, and steals this season. The Spirits were talented, but they were wildly inconsistent, dealing with the constant roster movement and Marvin's off-the-court troubles, as a 35-49 record kept them out of the playoffs. Ron averaged 22 points, 4 rebounds, 5 assists, and 2 steals. The ABA was done in the summer of 1976, but Ron had a very impressive run, finishing 3rd in career points, 6th in assists, 10th in steals, and 5th in total games played. Speaking of games played, he still hadn't missed one yet heading into his 9th season. Even though he was approaching 30, he was still coveted by NBA teams, selected with the 3rd pick of the dispersal draft by the Kansas City Kings. Former Nets guard Brian Taylor joined him on the squad as well. They had some solid guys in Sam Lacey, Scott Wedman, and Bill Robinson, but the Kings were far from being a serious contender. Ron really didn't seem to have any problems adjusting to the NBA, dropping 27 points, 6 rebounds, 5 assists, 3 steals, and 2 blocks in his 3rd game. He even dropped a career-high 43 points on March 29th against the Knicks. Ron finished 11th in scoring, while Brian Taylor made the 2nd-team All-Defense. The Kings were pretty decent on both sides of the ball, but their 40-42 record wasn't enough for the playoffs. In his first NBA season, Ron averaged 22 points, 4 rebounds, 4 assists, and 1.5 steals. The Kings added Otis Birdsong in 1977, as Lucius Allen and Richard Washington were the new starters. They played more of a team-oriented offense, so Ron's production would take a dip. He had 23 points and 3 steals in the season opener, and he hovered around the 20-point mark all year. Then he came out of nowhere with a 40-point performance on March 18th against Boston. The Kings fired coach Phil Johnson halfway through the season, replacing him with Larry Staverman, but that didn't make much of a difference, as the Kings finished 31-51. Ron averaged 18 points, 3.5 rebounds, 4 assists, and 1.5 steals. Ron was traded along with a 2nd rounder to Denver for Mike Evans and Darnell Hillman. On that same day, he was traded again, this time along with 2 2nd rounders to the Lakers for Charlie Scott. Of course, Kareem was there, but he was surrounded by a decent supporting cast. Ron would share shooting guard duties with Lou Hudson, only playing about 19 minutes a game. He actually started the first month and a half, but his numbers weren't the greatest. His best performance of the season was a 16-point outing against San Diego, but the Lakers really weren't using him that much. Kareem was still Kareem, while Norm, Jamal, and Adrian all averaged over 17 points. The Lakers finished 47-35, as Ron averaged 7 points, 2 rebounds, and 2 assists. LA faced Denver in the first round, as Ron was in the starting lineup. He dropped 10 in Game 1 and 15 in Game 3, as LA got past them to face the Sonics in the 2nd round. Ironically, Ron had his worst game and the Lakers only win in the series, dropping only 8 points on 2 of 9 shooting in Game 3, as the Lakers were eliminated in a gentleman's sweep. Ron was traded back to where it mostly began, as the New Orleans Jazz had moved to Utah in the offseason. Pistol Pete continued to deal with knee issues, so Adrian Dantley and Terry Furlow were the only other offensive threats on the team. Ron would start and had some solid performances, dropping 22 points on the Knicks, 24 against the Suns, and the season-high 35 points, 6 rebounds, 5 assists, and 4 steals against the Nuggets. 20 different players suited up for them, so this had a major effect on team chemistry. The Jazz were bad for their entire existence in New Orleans, and the relocation didn't change their fortunes, as they won 24 games this season. Ron averaged 13 points, 3 rebounds, 4 assists, and a steal. The Kings had lost Pistol Pete in the offseason, but they received the second pick in the 1980 draft, selecting Darrell Griffith from Louisville, while they also made an underrated acquisition, trading for point guard Ricky Green. Ron was deep on the bench this year, only scoring in double figures 18 times, with his best outing being on January 20th against Washington, with 18 points, 3 rebounds, and 5 assists, making both of his 3-point attempts. The rebuilding Jazz didn't need a 34-year-old veteran, so Ron was waived on January 26, 1981. He had an offer from the Warriors, but he decided to retire. Out of all the great things Ron accomplished during his career, his proudest achievement was his 1,041 consecutive games played. He didn't miss a game in his entire professional career, but since the NBA refuses to acknowledge ABA stats for some reason, nobody seemed to care when AC Green surpassed his streak. Ever since his retirement, Ron has been a broadcaster for the Jazz since 1988. When Hot Rod Hundley joined him, they formed a respected commentating duo among Jazz fans. Ron Boone was one of the best players in ABA history, but it still seemed like he was underrated most of his career. His offensive role during his first few years was pretty inconsistent, but he never complained and he did his job. He had so many tricks in his bag, as he was adept at slashing to the rim, plus he had the strength and athletic ability to play a lot bigger than what he was. He was a capable shooter and defender as well, but his dedication to his body might be the least talked about aspect of his game. He always reported to training camp in tip-top shape, as he might be the only pro athlete then and maybe ever to go their entire career without missing a game. He may not be talked about amongst the all-time greats, but he was definitely a legend in the ABA. Thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate y'all, man. The fact that he didn't miss a game in 13 years is wild to me. When you think about back then, the medical world was nowhere near as advanced as it was now, and the training staff did not have as much knowledge as they did now, and the game was a lot more physical back then, and he wasn't a player that shied away from contact. So the fact that he was able to keep himself in that amount of shape to stay healthy, of course he probably had some little injuries, but he played through them. You showed up every time. Like, that's commendable. That's really commendable. And he was a great player too. He wasn't just a guy that was on the end of the bench. He's really a great all-around combo guard. He really could have played. He's not even really a combo guard because he can play the 1 through the 3. It's like the first couple years he kind of bounced around because he was the main guy, then he was on the bench, then he was the main guy, then he was on the bench. And like, while he was good, those first few years in Utah, he didn't really get his opportunity to really shine as the main guy until Willie Wise left. So Ron was nice, man. Then he got to the league and he averaged 20 in the NBA. You know, like, you go from averaging 20 in the ABA to averaging 20 in the NBA. Like, you're a great player, man. You're a really good player. Thank you. I really appreciate y'all. If you would like to enjoy it, that subscribe button to my channel. Turn my post notifications on if you haven't already. Be safe, stay on the grind. I'm out. Peace.